for more on what we can expect next week and what questions remain, Susan Crabtree is here. She's a Real Clear Politics White House and national political correspondent who has paid a lot of attention to the activities of the United States Secret Service. Susan, good to have you back with us.
It's great to be on with you again.
This is a big event. Obviously, this is the big one. How concerned are your sources about the security of it?
So they're not as concerned as you might think. I know there has been some talk about the threat from drones with all these drone fleets that are still unexplained by the Biden administration across the eastern seaboard and other places around the country. But the Secret Service agents I talked to said that D.C. has long had a pretty bold and robust drone mitigation system in place, and they truly believe that that's not going to be a problem. So I know Dan Bongino and others have been expressing concerns and said even that he didn't think Donald Trump should have a formal inauguration. He should forego it, just get signed in. But that's not what I'm hearing from the agents. They feel confident in that process. What they're very concerned about are ongoing DEI issues that they worry that could play out during the inauguration. For instance, one particular agent recently told me that in 2008 there was a ceremonial contingent of agents that were junior agents and that were selected based on their skin color and gender to follow along Obama's motorcade, and that the real agents that protected Obama were on the innermost ring of the president after he was sworn in and made that ceremonial inauguration route with the motorcade. But there were other agents that are positioned inside that are more senior trained, but that they worry that could happen again because, and hopefully not after the assassination attempts where DEI was heavily criticized. So that was one area of deep concern.
If I could, I want to dwell on that for a moment so I understand it. So in 2008, if I understand you correctly, the visible presence of many of the Secret Service agents was populated with people on the basis of their looks, as in their gender and their skin color, rather than whether or not they were the best qualified to protect the president?
That's correct.
Okay.
Now, there was still an innermost ring that were inside the motorcade and right outside the president's motorcade. But if you go back and look at the footage, a lot of the agents, and I'm hearing this from a person who was deeply involved in that inauguration planning. So there's concern that could happen again.
Yes.
And certainly that hopefully it will not happen again because the leadership there's so much concern about DEI even in the fires out in LA too, that they're playing a role. It's getting a lot of negative publicity since the assassination attempts. But that is just one area of concern. The other is, and I can go into, is training of the other participating agencies, mainly Homeland Security investigative agents, their level of training that are working with the Secret Service. And Matt McCool, as you mentioned, the agent in charge of the Washington field office, he mentioned there was going to be 25,000 different military and law enforcement and other federal agents that were involved in helping supplement the Secret Service's role that day.
Yes.
And some of these are Homeland Security investigative agents, and we know from Butler that there was a large contingent of those agents, and they weren't trained at all. They only had a glitchy 2-hour online training, and they complained that they didn't feel prepared, and the Secret Service agents didn't feel like they were prepared. So there's concern about that. They're not so much concerned about the military. I asked that question, but no, we're not concerned about the military. We're concerned about other federal agents that are supplementing. And they are deeply concerned about the level of exhaustion of all agents and uniform division officers because of this frenetic pace that they've been involved in weeks for months. Since the campaign for the entire year.
Yes.
But obviously since the height of that campaign in the last few months.
In today's briefing, as all of these various law enforcement agencies were describing what they're doing, they were saying that these special national security events, they've had a lot lately to include this January 6th. They turned that into kind of an up-armored electoral event. at the Capitol. The Jimmy Carter funeral, which we saw just take place, required. It was treated as a national security event with a massive police presence, and there, of course, the inauguration will be the biggest of them all out of those three. You're dealing with a workforce that is being asked to work a lot of hours and to do a lot, and that includes, as I understand it, a smaller personnel strength. They've all lost employees through the years, making this job all the harder.
Absolutely. And I'll have a exclusive internal email from the Secret Service out on my X.com account pretty soon after this interview. But the Secret Service agent shared this with me that they are going to be, there's no end in sight either. They're offering a lot of bonuses for retention for Secret Service agents and calling back other agents as well, previous agents, to try to beef up their numbers and improve morale and the exhaustion level. But there is an email that was circulated from a Secret Service boss in the field operation. It gave a manpower update just on Friday, and they're saying that, we appreciate all your work. We really appreciate, but hang in there because it's not going to end. And was met with a lot of sighs and these tired eyes. And people criticize, well, this is what you signed up for. Well, actually, the numbers have been extremely. There are a lot of agents, senior agents, heading for the door after the assassination attempt, and they're on their way to retirement. If they have the 20 years in that are required, a lot of them are beating an exodus for the door.
Mm-hmm. Was there any recruiting impact after the assassination attempt last year? Are you aware of whether or not young people who are interested in this line of work started volunteering as a result of all of this? Have they seen any impact since the election itself? In other words, President Trump wins the election. Has that led to any change in recruitment?
On the recruitment front, Ron Rowe, the acting director, has claimed that these retention and bonuses, and also just offering bonuses for people to come on, has improved things. He testified before the Senate that day, or it was Congress, sorry, before the same day that he had that terrible outburst when he was called on the carpet for a photo op on 9/11.
Yep.
But they haven't gotten back to me on the retention issues and recruitment issues on my questions. The Secret Service hasn't. They do get back to me on some of them, so that always worries me a little bit. But there's no doubt that they are being stretched extremely thin, and this email that I'm about to put out tells them that they just cannot believe they're being asked to, because of all the current administration and the big Trump family, they're going to have to be stretched even thinner.
Yes.
They're saying, can we please get rid of some of these people like John Bolton that we have to cover? We still have to cover now. Yeah. John Bolton there was a threat against John Bolton from Iran that the FBI thwarted a couple of years ago. So there is a rationale for keeping John Bolton.
I didn't know he still has Secret Service protection to this very day, though.
Yes, he does.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
And I have a list of the people who have it.
Okay. So as far as inaugurations go, what do law enforcement officials think about this one as they compare it to others in the past? It seemed to me that it kind of sounded like they consider this the most fraught inauguration in a long time in terms of the threat environment and the work that it's going to take to protect certainly all of the people who are there. They're expecting about right now 250,000. I saw 250,000 ticketed seats at the inauguration. That's a lot of people, 250,000 people with tickets. And you mentioned 25,000 law enforcement officials. My basic napkin math means one cop for every 10 civilians. And then, of course, you got to, most importantly, I guess, protect the president of the United States. How does this compare to past inaugurations?
I don't remember. I covered Trump's first presidential inauguration. Of course, there was all the talk afterwards with Sean Spicer about the crowd size, how it compared to Obama's. This is supposed to be 250,000. It's supposed to be the largest, and they are concerned that the U.S. Capitol Police Chief Tom Manger said at that press conference that we need to be really concerned about the lone wolves, basically lone actors that could pose a threat. And the FBI said we don't have any credible evidence of any threat that we're tracking right now, which is interesting because you would think there were so many threats over the campaign season from Iran and others that how do they just disappear? So the FBI is.
Well, also,
can we trust the FBI on that?
That was the pattern of events before the New Orleans terrorist attack, which is the FBI says they had no knowledge of him conducting something like that, and then he became a lone actor who killed a lot of people.
That's right. I feel like Matt McCool, the Secret Service agent at that press conference, the boss of the field office, was kind of playing it cool. He was trying to. Reporters asked exactly that question. How does this compare with other years? And he said it's a higher security threat. He stated that, but then he said we have the most robust security apparatus ever, and we've had 5 big special national security events, NSSCs, as known in the Secret Service parlance, this year that we've been able to protect without serious problems. So in the Washington, D.C. area, certainly the Washington, D.C. Law enforcement and Secret Service, they're the most experienced to deal with these type of huge events. But we did hear from the U.S. Capitol Police Chief that there was 2 lone actors that are trying to disrupt the Jimmy Carter funeral, and one of them had a machete and then some other kind of knife, and one of them set his car on fire near the Capitol. So, those events are more unpredictable, as we saw with New Orleans. And certainly, I think Secret Service, if you read between the lines of what he was saying, they were saying the threat is much higher this year than other years.
Lastly, I know, Susan, you've got some news to break, so I'll let you do that in a moment. I just wanted to ask, I've been meaning to ask you this question. There were 2 very well-publicized assassination attempts on President Trump last year, including one in which he was hit in the head. That's when Thomas Crooks opened fire in Butler, Pennsylvania, July 13th. But also there was that attack by that dude Ryan Ruth down in Florida. A congressional report would later indicate that the Secret Service agent who saw that guy in the tree line wasn't actually at a great distance from him, but instead he was 5 feet away and fired 6 shots and missed every one. That was the congressional report. Is that your understanding? Is that when you talk to Secret Service sources, do they corroborate that claim? This guy was 5 feet away, fired 6 shots, and missed all of them?
Yes, they are ridiculing that agent, although the agent deserves some commendation because he's the one who stopped the incident from happening if it was going to happen. So, but yes, the commentary that I've been seeing from the Secret Service sources are saying that the fact that he missed all of those shots is not a good indication of their training levels, and the fact that they, when it comes to shooting, they have drastically reduced the amount of training, going out to the range and shooting training that these Secret Service agents must undergo on a regular basis. I think it used to be once a month, and it's not. It's once every. I can't remember, but I have the sources that can explain that to me. They have complained, and this even before that incident, they complained that they were not training as much. They're not doing as much training, and the way it was described to me is that they're just stretched too thin. They can't spend the time to do the training because the number of Secret Service agents has been reduced, and they're not prioritizing that.
It's an amazing story. I'm so glad that you're there to always dig into all of this. It really helps us understand it. Thank you very much. Susan Crabtree with Real Clear Politics. Nice to talk to you as always.
Oh, thank you so much for your interest. Thanks,
Of course. It's 4:52 now.